Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. This is episode 52 and my name is Rachel. I'm coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, and I can be found pretty much everywhere as Waffle Pearls. Thank you to everybody who is tuning in today. Thank you to those who are returning viewers and our Patreon subscribers. You guys are the ones that keep this show on the air week in and week out. And to anybody who's giving the show a shot for the first time, thank you so much for tuning in and for giving me a try. I would like to really quickly plug my friend Monique. She is local to me here in Vancouver, here in British Columbia. Her Etsy shop, Frog Peak Creations, is having a sale this month for 25% off. Just use the coupon code BIRTHDAY, all in capital letters. She does project bags and hand spun yarn and knitted creations. So head over there to Frog Peak Creations and see if you can find something special. It is the second week of the month, so we do a Patreon draw from the Patreon supporters from the previous month at this time. I drew from, I can't even remember how many supporters there were of the show this month, but you can choose from either a woolen spinning mug, or you can choose from stitch markers from my Etsy shop. So if you want it, there's a link at wellforpearls.com under episode 52. And the winner this month was Annie from Colorado. So congratulations, Annie. Please let me know what your choice is. If you choose stitch markers, can you just send me a link of the actual listing on Etsy? That would be very helpful. Thank you. I'm sure that some of you are a part of and are active members of the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary group over on Ravelry. And if you are, you will know all about Spin the Bin. I did Spin the Bin last year. I wasn't super ambitious last year about my bin. I only put in what was the bare minimum requirements. So you have to enter 12 2-ounce batches of fiber. So it works out to roughly 6 braids of hand-painted fiber. I decided this year to be a little bit more ambitious and treat each entry as a 4-ounce braid of fiber. So I have 12 braids of fiber that I'm going to put into my bin this year. You can take a photo of all of the fiber that you want to enter with a photo of the bin that you're going to keep it in. And that means that you have like a free pass to swap out one of the fibers in the year. If you take one out and you don't spin it, or you, there's a whole bunch of different rules. Anyways, you get penalized for that. So I've gone through my stash. I pulled everything out. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen. And I pulled out a whole bunch of stuff that I've really been wanting to get to and wanting to spin, but I just keep putting it off, and it's getting now to be older stash. So things like this pencil roving from Smith & U, things like, sorry for the crinkling, this Romney from Spunky Eclectic Club, from, oh my goodness, when was this from? October of 2015. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that I've been saving and wanting to do something with, and I keep putting it off and I don't do it, and then I get sidetracked with other projects. So if you would like to do Spin the Bin, if you are interested in joining, head over to the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary group. There's lots and lots of information in the chatter thread. All the rules are there. And if you are wanting to do it, let me know, because we'll start a thread in our woolen spinning group on Ravelry for people who want support and want to support one another. We can kind of have like a mini discussion thread over on our group for Spin the Bin. So if you would like to participate in that, please let me know. If there's no interest, I'll just spend my time over on the CTA group. But if there is in our group, then it would be nice to share with one another and support one another throughout the year, because these bins are pretty ambitious. If you put in 6 to 12 braids of fiber, it's a lot of fiber to spin through. I wanted to mention the blast off along. People are still submitting stuff, so I am going to draw prizes next week. I just have a couple of braids of fiber that I thought that I would give away. And so get your last few things that you finished up in December in there, and I will draw next week. All right, for today's show, I have some spins in progress. I have a finished object. I have a little bit of knitting, and I have the color studies to talk about. So let's get on with the show. For spins in progress, my bobbin is actually on my wheel that I'm working on. I will insert a photo here of what it looks like thus far. This is Sweet Georgia Yarns January 2016 club. So we just picked it up last week, Katrina and I. And for those of you who don't know who Katrina is, she is Crafty Jacks on Ravelry. She's the co-moderator in the group. She's very active on the Slack channel for those who are Patreon supporters and are in there. Her and I are going to be sharing Spinning Club from now on. It sort of alleviates a little bit of both of ours feeling a bit wanting some inspiration and some outside input on how we spin the braids each month. So she's going to be taking 1 month. I'm going to take 1 month. We're going to kind of swap back and forth. So January, I'm actually working on a 3-ply. I'm not sure at this point if it's going to be a 3-ply fractal or a traditional 3-ply. So for me, the difference between a traditional 3-ply and a fractal 3-ply is that one really blends the colors together, and you don't want that striping that you get in fractal spinning. So this month's was called Fast Forward. The colors are really gorgeous, and like it's on superwash merino and nylon, which is great for socks. It's a really beautiful prep this month. They're beautiful colors. They're not really my colors. I don't really love orange. I don't really love hot pink. Yeah, they're just not totally my colors. So what I did was I took the braid and I split it in 3. And the part that I'm spinning right now is this really, these really stripped down nests. And so I stripped them down to 18 little nests. So I stripped the braid. So I split the braid once vertically. So I took the braid, laid it out, and split it so that I have a whole bunch of these, 2 more of these thicker. I just can't get my words. I don't know what's going on. I'm just having trouble explaining this. Okay, so I split the braid vertically so that I have 3 big nests. And in one of those big nests, I split 18 times. So I horizontally stripped it. And now I have all of these little teeny tiny nests. And I'm just spinning them one after another. And the nice thing about where I split it, they start and end with the same color. So the color transition from one nest to the next is actually the same, which is really nice. So I'm just working my way through these. I think I've done 5 so far. So I have another 13 to go. I started this just yesterday, and it's actually going quite fast so far. I've been kind of putting it off doing this month, and I think part of why I've been sort of putting it off is because I just love the colors in this month's braid, but they're not colors that really speak to me. I really like colors that are a little bit more muted, a little bit browner. Well, you guys know, you see what I spin and what I choose to spin. So I'm really looking forward to what Katrina is planning for this month, though, because she is doing something totally different. So it'll be really cool to see the difference between the 2 spins. So that I'm really looking forward to. So this is Sweet Georgia's January Club, and I will keep you posted on that as I go. I resurrected one of my spins that I was working on in 2016. I almost tried to throw this on my wheel in the last week of 2016 and try to get it finished. But then I thought, no, that's crazy making. I need to just let it go, and I will work on it in January and February and get it done. So this was Smith & Hughes pencil roving. It was in this gorgeous sort of, it's sort of a bit rainbow. It's purple and baby blue and bright yellow, and like it's just very I just loved it when I saw it back at Fibers West in March a year ago. So this is the other half of the pencil roving. I took the pencil roving and I stripped it once horizontally. So I took the pencil roving and I literally split it in 2 so that the 2 bobbins will be exactly the same, and I'll chain ply them. I think you might remember me talking about this fiber. So this is 100% superwash BFL. And this was my first bobbin. And I just need to finish the other bobbin and chain ply. And I'll have 2 skeins for socks. That is my plan. I just need to do it. So this is... I'm actually really looking forward to finishing this. I might put this through the wheel one more time to really get that twist really activated and really tight, because these are going to be for socks, and I want them to be hard wearing. I have another pair of socks that I knit out of Superwash BFL from Marianne, who's the dyer behind Smith & You, and they are wearing really well. I put them in a garment bag to wash them in the machine, and I always wash them on gentle, and no, that's not true. They've gone through the normal wash, but I do always wash them on cold water wash, cold water rinse, and I've never had a problem, and they actually still look new. So that's been really great. So that's what I'm hoping will become of these. The leftover yarn will be socks for Nora because she's already asked. So we'll have matching socks. So I might knit hers first and then cast on for mine in the summer. So those are my 2 spins in progress. I'm looking forward to getting through them and finishing them, because my rule with Spin the Bin this year is that I have 12 braids of fiber. I already know what I'm going to do with them in terms of spinning each of them, and I'm not going to talk about it right now, but you'll start to see a pattern over the next couple of months. My plan is to spin 1 per month, so that by the end of December I will have them all finished and they will be complete. So fingers crossed. That's the plan. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I have a finished object to share with you today. This is my Elfenwolle spin that I finished. I ended up plying to 1 bobbin. I used my Mach 3 to ply. And of course, many of you know the Spinolution wheels have massive bobbins. So I actually plied it all to 1 bobbin, but then I wound off 2 skeins because on my ball winder, it can't cope with those massive skeins. So this is actually for some reason I ended up just magically choosing the right number. One of these, they're both 210 yards, which is perfect. So I have 420 yards here to play with, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. This was a mixed BFL with Tussa silk. It was 2 different braids of fiber, which I shared last time and talked quite extensively about the 2 colorways and everything. It ended up being better than I even thought that it would be. I knew that the 2 braids would work together, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I didn't think they would work so well together. Like, I knew it would be great, but I didn't know it would be so great. I'm really excited to work with this. One of the things that I really like about this spin is that it, from a distance, it's quite brown and quite like a browny purple, and then you've got the hits of yellow, and I'm really looking forward to doing something that highlights that brings that out. I'm actually thinking about maybe doing a Multnomah again, but on bigger needles, because this is about a DK weight yarn. It came out at about 13 wraps per inch, which I was planning because I had spun 20 wraps per inch for my singles, so I'm really pleased that that worked out. And I'm hoping that if I knit on slightly bigger needles than what's called for in the Multnomah shawl, that I'll end up with like just a really good sized shawl that I can wear as sort of a kerchief. So that's my plan, possibly. It might change. Knowing me, it might change. I was looking at the textured, what was that shawl called? It was really popular about 10 years ago. The textured recipe shawl. I knit one, but I don't wear it anymore. Because I knit it with Barocco Ultra Alpaca, and the alpaca really makes me sneeze. So I would wear the shawl, and then within half an hour I'd start sneezing. And what was that shawl called? Anyways, I might do that. Or I might adapt that and put that stitch pattern in at the bottom instead of the Multnomah feather and fan type pattern. I'm not sure. Multnomah is by Kate Ray, who hosts the Stitch Addiction podcast. So I've got some thoughts. I love the yarn. I spun the singles quite low twist. I spun them on 8-1 on my Lendrum, and I ended up, and then I plied at 11-1, and I really tried to build up that twist to really end up with this really lovely twist angle. And what's ended up happening is I've ended up with this really bouncy, quite soft for BFL yarn. And it makes me really excited to knit with it because I want to see what it looks like in a pattern, like, knitted. So I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. There's some beautiful areas in the yarn that heathered really, really, really well because of the combo draft of the 2 singles. Then they plied together and it made this gorgeous heathering. And one of the things I will say, because both braids that I chose to combo spin together, because they were both BFL. One was a combination of BFL, mixed BFL, and tussah silk. So mixed BFL just means that it wasn't white. It was some shade of brown. And the other one was different shades of BFL, but there was no silk in it. Because it was all the same staple length, it really made the drafting really lovely. So if you're thinking about doing a combo spin and it's your first time, I would really recommend combining two braids with a similar staple length for your first time. Strip them right down, make your strips of fiber really, really thin so that you don't have too much in your hand. And when you lay the two together, pre-draft them together. So don't pre-draft them ahead of time. Put them together and then pre-draft them, and you might have some better success, because I know I struggled the first couple times I tried combo drafting, and it's definitely a skill and it's something you have to practice. But I'm looking forward to turning this into a knitted project, so I'll have more in the coming months. All right, let me chat really quickly about what is on my needles, and it's actually not my needles, it's my hooks. So I'm storing this in my bag that my friend Nina gave me down in Chile. So a little shout out to Nina. Thank you. I use this bag all the time. Nora tried to claim it and I told her absolutely not. I am going to insert a video here for you to watch to show you what this looks like. But remember last time I was talking about my blanket that I had started, and I've put my mitered squares blanket sort of to the side for now. And I have pulled out all of my, and then I started the Hexy Love Actually blanket, and I had sort of thought that I would use all of my hand spun leftovers and all of my little mini skeins, and I'd put it all into that. And I wasn't super happy with it, and I was kind of waffling, and I was chatting about this last week. Well, I scrapped that idea. I stumbled on something on Ravelry under the Friends Activity tab that was somebody who had done this really cool sort of shades blanket, and it was crocheted, and I wasn't really looking at it. I was sort of just scrolling through the tab, all the pages and looking, and then I kept going back. So I finally clicked on it, and it took me to a crochet pattern from Red Heart that was published in Crochet Today back in 2008 or 2009, and I hope I have that right. And it's called Sunny Spread, and it was a blanket, and it's an 8x8 blanket done with worsted weight Red Heart yarn on a 5mm hook. And I thought that's the project. So I've scrapped using up my leftovers. I've scrapped using up sort of trying to blast through my stash, and I've completely sort of rethought the whole project. And what I'm actually going to do instead for this blanket is only use my fiber in my stash that is carded by me, blended by me, dyed by me, and of course hand spun. So I went through and I pulled out all of my stuff that I've been wanting to use up that's carded. So a lot of it is club. There's some spoilers in here of club. This was October. I've got some, this is Mike's socks that I did for him for Christmas that I dyed the fiber first and then spun it. This is my textured vanilla shawl that I had carded up all that fiber a couple of years ago and knit, that huge massive shawl. This is some Suffolk that I dyed that I can't talk about until another couple of months because the article isn't out yet. This was some fiber that, again, I can't talk about because I spun it up for an article for a magazine. I just have a whole bunch of stuff that's just sort of odds and ends. This was the leftovers of this combo spin from this shawl that I had carded up on my drum carder and spun with comb top. I just have all this different stuff. And so I've been crocheting up the little centers for the blanket. And so I'll show you a couple, and I think what I'll do is I will show you a couple of the crazy ones. So this is just so bright. This was orange, the orange. This was the club colorway from August. It was called Peaches Orange. This is that I just showed you the vanilla shawl that I had carded up a few years ago. This is that crocheted up. And it's just it uses front post double crochet, and it looks like a sun, and it's just really, I'm really enjoying this project. So I will insert the video here of what it all looks like, and you can see sort of how it's coming along all the different centers. And for now, I've completely scrapped using up my scraps and I'm just really enjoying this project. I think I probably need more than 68 centers and 68 blocks in total, but I'll see as it goes along. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was color studies. So I said last week that what I was going to try to do through the next few months was every week I would spin up a little sample of the fiber that we've been working on. If you're not aware of color studies or you don't know what it's all about, please head over to the Ravelry group and click on the tab Color Studies. This is running for the next probably year in the Ravelry group. It started in October and we'll start another study again in October of this year. There were 2 braids of fiber that Karen dyed up for us from Farm Fairy Fiber. It is still available. The coupon code lasts until the 15th of January. So if you're watching this on or before the 15th, please head over to the Farm Fairy Fiber Etsy shop for more. And you can plug in the code SPLIT compliment, all one word. And I took my first braid, and this is Summer. So there were 2 colorways that she dyed for us, and Summer was the one that I started with. I took the braid, I laid it out, and I split it horizontally, So I split it through the length of the braid 4 times. And I took each of the nests and I wound them all up around my hand and I put them each aside. And I grabbed one of the 4 and I sat down at my wheel and I took the braid and I actually split it again so that I had 2, the fiber. I split it again so that I had 2 nests of fiber from this 1/4 of the braid. And I spun a traditional 2-ply and I plied it. I didn't do a center pull ball. I did do a traditional 2-ply. So the 2 ends that I started with were the 2 ends that were plied together. And because center pull balls and 2 traditional 2-plies, they do look different. And this is what I ended up with. So this this colorway is really interesting because the blue, the green in it and the pink are very similar in tone. And then you've got this gorgeous yellowy camel color that's in there. That's the complement. So the green and the pink and the sort of camel-y orange, it creates that split complement. And what I wanted to mention today and talk about today really quickly is that when you have these types of braids, one of the things that I find works the best is like what Karen did, where you have one of the colors that is more dominant in terms of the amount of it. So what Karen did for this one is there's way more green than there is pink. So when you lay out the braid on your table, you'll see that there's a lot more green than pink. And so there's a lot of places in the yarn itself where the green plies up with the green and you get these long repeats of just green. And then the areas where you get the barber poling, where it starts to go into the pink or starts to go into the camel-y, yellowy brown, ends up being quite minimal. So you end up with a very minimal amount of barber poling. And the nice thing is in this one, because the tone between the green and the pink is very similar, like if you put it into grayscale, there's no difference in terms of one being lighter or darker. From a distance, when you see this and when you see it knit up, I find it doesn't then compete with a stitch pattern. So if you were to put this into a pattern like this actually that has a little bit of open work, some yarn overs and a little bit of garter stitch, it doesn't take over from that pattern. it wouldn't compete with the stitch work to the same extent that it would if the pink was really, really, really bright, or the green was really, really, really dark. And I think that's where these colorways, when you do a traditional two-ply, they really work quite well. If you want a two-ply that really has a lot of contrast and is really gonna, I was gonna say shout at you, but you know those two-plies that you see that are, one is one of the colors is really light and the other one is really dark, and when you two-ply them, they really bounce off of one another. And that's the really cool thing about, you know, when you have different tones, but it doesn't work so well when you have a stitch pattern that it's going to compete against. The camera got interrupted there, and the kids are outside and they're playing trains, and the afternoon is onwards. I have to go make dinner. I'm going to cut it off there. The show's getting a bit long for this week. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. For those who are Patreon subscribers, episode 1 of Woolen Spinning Radio is going to be released on Saturday, January 14th. I hope that you tune in. It is the audio podcast that will go with the Patreon subscriptions from now on. For those who are in Fiber Club, the last installment was mailed out this morning. I hope that you enjoy the colorway for this month. As you know, because I've written about it everywhere and I've talked about it everywhere, those tiers for workshops and Fiber Club will be canceled on or around January 20th. So if you would like to continue supporting the show, which I hope that you do, please just edit your support pledge tier to a lower level. Until next week, I hope that you are doing lots of spinning and lots of knitting and lots of whatever else you'd like to do in your creative life. And until next week, happy spinning.